Tonight feels different. A glass of wine next to me, but it's not because I'm celebrating anything. And it's not because I'm stressed. It's because sometimes you need something that slows you down enough to tell the truth. And tonight, I want to talk about that truth. Lately, I haven't felt like myself, but not in a life is falling apart kind of way. More like the kind of quiet where you're still functioning, still working, still thinking, still planning, but something feels off. Like it's like you're moving but not progressing. Like you're full of ideas but empty on execution. Think about that. Moving but not progressing, or you're like full of ideas but empty on execution. Like your mind is loud but your life is still. And lately I've been scrolling more than I like to admit. I've been starting things I don't finish. I've been thinking 5 years ahead, imagining futures, researching projects. I've been building blueprints of versions of myself that doesn't even exist yet. And somehow, in the middle of all of that, I stopped showing up here. And that bothered me. Because this right here, this podcast, 21 grams, this isn't random. It's not something I copied. And it's not something I was handed. It's something I built. Something I built from instinct. And if I'm being honest, I think I've been avoiding it. But not because I don't care, but because I do. Now I'll explain a little further on that. Tonight isn't about motivation. It's not about productivity hacks or things like that. It's about something deeper. It's about what happens when you have too much potential, but not enough clarity. It's about what happens when you have too much potential, but not enough clarity. That thought. When your ambition outruns your focus. When comfort becomes easier than commitment. Tonight, I want to unpack that. But I want to unpack it honestly. With no script to hide behind, just a glass of wine and the truth. This is 21 grams. And this episode is called Paralyzed by Potential. Let's talk about overload. On paper, I shouldn't feel stuck. And that's what's confusing about it. I have ideas, not one or two, a lot of ideas. And they're not random ideas either. They're good ideas. Podcast concepts I genuinely believe in. Things like books I want to finish because they align with the man I'm trying to become. Cars I research like I'm about to buy them tomorrow. My cologne collection. But most importantly, one of the best ideas I've had in a while is the therapy I've considered, because I know there's another level of clarity I could tap into. There's no shame in that. And it's not a lack of direction either. It's too much direction at once. And that's where it gets dangerous, right? Because from the outside, it looks like ambition. But from the inside, it feels like traffic. It feels like being in a four-way intersection where every light is green. You could go anywhere, but you don't move. And why not? I think it's because you're calculating all of it at the same time. And I realized something about myself lately. I don't struggle with starting. I struggle with narrowing. I can start 3 books in the same week. I can outline 5 business ideas in one night. I can research something for hours, but narrowing down to one thing and saying, this is it. This is what gets my energy. This is what gets my thoughts. This is what gets 100% of me. That's where the friction lives. And friction doesn't feel dramatic, it feels subtle. It feels like opening your laptop to record and suddenly remembering three other things you should be doing. It feels like sitting down to write and then convincing yourself you need to do some more research first. Shoot, sometimes it even feels like scrolling because your brain is overstimulated and calling that decompression, right? You're gonna scroll for a while, you're gonna take a mental break from things, and you're calling that decompressing. But here's the truth: overload doesn't have to feel heavy all at once, right? Or better said, overload doesn't feel heavy at first. It feels exciting. So many things going on, so many ideas, so many things to do, so many directions you can take, endless possibilities. So it feels exciting, right? New ideas feel like possibilities, they feel like expansion. Sometimes they even feel like momentum. But if you stack too many possibilities on top of each other without choosing, they stop feeling like opportunities and they start to feel like pressure. And I think that's what's been going on with me. It's like I'm walking into a buffet when I'm starving. At first, it's exciting. I grab a little bit of everything, but eventually the plate is overloaded and nothing tastes good. It's too many mixes of different things. And maybe you're not even sure what you actually wanted. And that's what this season has felt like for me: mental buffet energy. That's what I like to call it. Now I'll break it down for you. Mental buffet energy, at least in my case: a little podcasting, a little entrepreneurship, a little gaming, a little research, a little scrolling, a little dreaming, but none of it fully satisfying, because satisfaction doesn't come from sampling, it comes from commitment. And I think I've been sampling my own potential. And that's a hard sentence to say out loud, even for me. I haven't been blocked, I haven't been uninspired, I've been scattered. And when you're scattered, you don't feel weak, you feel busy. And busy is easy to justify. But busy without focus, that's just noise. Like, think about it. Being busy without focus, I mean, what are you really doing? That's just noise. And that noise, sometimes, or most of the time, I would say, it feels a lot like being stuck. To sum it up, the best way I can, I would say it's like having 47 tabs open in your brain and none of them are loading. We can all we can all say we've seen that happen sometimes. Having 47 tabs open in your brain, none of them are loading. Hmm. Saying that, let me tell you about last Tuesday. No crisis, no bad day. It was a normal Tuesday, just like anything. It was about quarter to seven. I remember looking at the clock because I was going to start recording an episode. But I didn't really have a big motivation. I had a calm kind of motivation. Not hype, right? Not that new year, new me energy. Just that quiet thought like, all right, tonight I'm going to build something. I'm going to build this episode. I'm going to write it. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to freestyle it. I was going to do whatever it takes to get that episode going. But I didn't even define what that meant. Tonight, I build. What does that even mean? Was I going to record something? Was I going to outline something, write it, or just move forward? So here's what I did: I opened the laptop, sat down, mic in front of me. And before I started, I picked up my phone just for a second, just to actually put it on do not disturb or in one of the modes, like a focus mode or something. But I ended up scrolling one short video, then another, then another. And you know how the algorithm works, right? It doesn't ask you what you need. It just shows you what will keep you there. Or just open up stuff based on what it heard you say or what you've already researched. Well, 10 minutes pass, it doesn't really feel like 10 minutes. And I see a clip of a show, looks interesting. I tell myself, let me check out the first episode while I eat. That's reasonable, right? I mean, we're going to eat something. Let me just watch this quick episode, get into the groove of things, and I'll get to the episode or to my outline or to something. I'll move forward one way, shape, or form. First episode, turned to two, two turned to three. All of a sudden, it was about 10:30, and at that point, I'm not even fully engaged. I'm half watching, half scrolling, half thinking about the thing I was supposed to build on. So by this time, you know what? I decided I'm going to close my laptop, and here's the part that bothered me. I didn't feel entertained. I didn't feel fulfilled. I felt, what's the word I'm looking for? I felt dulled. Like my edge had been sanded down a bit. It wasn't joy, it wasn't sedation. I'm sorry, it was sedation. That kind of sedated me from the rush of getting started on my project and building something. Watching those few episodes for those many hours, that sedated me. And the whole time, the entire time, there was a quiet voice underneath that kept saying something like, "You're avoiding something." But it wasn't yelling, it wasn't shaming, it was just present. "Hey, Joe, you're avoiding something." Kind of like a smoke detector with a low battery beep, right? It's not loud enough to panic you, but it's loud enough to let you know that something's off, right? And that voice was right. And here's the analogy that hit me later. It felt like I had walked into a gym, changed into my workout clothes, stretched, put on gloves. Instead of lifting, I got on the massage chair for 4 hours. The chair feels good, it's comfortable, it hums, it vibrates, it feels like you're doing something good for yourself. But I didn't train, I didn't strain, I didn't build. It was just soothing. And soothing has its place, right? But if every time we're supposed to build and we choose a massage chair instead of the weights, instead of building, instead of the research, eventually you're going to feel weaker. You're going to feel incomplete. You're going to feel like you started something and you didn't finish it. Not because you're incapable, but because you keep choosing comfort over commitment. And that's what Tuesday night was for me. And I was embarrassed. I felt like I let myself down, like I let those that believe in me down because I believe in this. I believe in 21 grams. Choosing comfort over commitment. Can't believe I did that. And what scared me wasn't the binge. It wasn't that I started watching those episodes. It was how easy it was, how natural it felt, how quickly just one episode became the entire night, became two, three, 4 episodes later. And that's when I realized that this isn't about laziness, it's about an escape, right? Because building something that matters requires friction, requires your attention. Watching something requires nothing. There's no risk, there's no vulnerability, there's no judgment. Simply put, it's just consumption. And when your mind is overloaded, consumption feels like clarity. Or matter of fact, consumption feels easier than clarity. But clarity doesn't come from scrolling. It comes from choosing, from narrowing. And that Tuesday night, that wasn't rest. That was avoiding. It was avoidance wearing comfortable clothes, I would say. Let me touch up a little bit on this season of me, this season of what I got going on. This season, I'm actually calling it overwhelmed. And that's the polite word. It sounds responsible. Some might say it even sounds mature. It sounds like I'm handling a lot. But if I'm being honest, I think I've been avoiding not work and not responsibilities or discipline. The thing that matters most right now, and this is, of course, besides my family, my children, my wife, my household, the thing that matters most, besides all of that, this right here, 21 grams. And when that realization hit me, it felt quiet. It felt like realizing you've been driving in circles with the GPS on the entire time. Like, I know what I have to do. I have my research done. I know my mental space. I'm moving. The car's running. The music's playing. But I'm not getting any closer to where I said I wanted to go, to where I wanted to be. All that stops now. That's what all of that felt like. Movement without arrival. Think about that. Movement without arrival. We can always pick up traction doing whatever, doing research, starting a new project, reading a new book. But when movement starts to feel like you're moving, but you're not arriving anywhere, that's when we have to wake up and realize I need to get focused again because that's the dangerous place to live. Because from the outside, it looks productive, right? It looks productive that you're doing so much. You are so busy that some things just fall off the wayside. That looking productive, it's not a lot of productivity, is it? Been busy, but busy is not the same as brave, right? Because you have to be brave to just keep going and maintain your focus. Busy is easy. Busy lets you hide. You can hide inside of research. You can hide inside of planning. You can hide inside of quote unquote figuring things out. But narrowing, choosing one thing and letting the rest just sit still for a while, that's where being productive comes in. And being honest, I haven't been productive, at least not with this. Because to me, 21 grams isn't just another project. This isn't something I picked up on a whim. This isn't content for content's sake. This came from instinct. From that place you didn't always feel like you can get to. From that place that doesn't follow trends, that doesn't wait for permission, that just knows. And when something comes from that place, it's heavier. It's like carrying a glass sculpture you made yourself. If you drop a random object, it is what it is. If you drop something you built with your own two hands, that hits different. And this is what this podcast is to me. It carries history, it carries expectation, and more importantly, to me at least, it carries vulnerability. New ideas are light, they're balloons, they float, they're exciting, they don't weigh that much. But something rooted, something built slowly, that's an anchor. And anchors aren't sexy, they aren't nice, they aren't pretty, they aren't cool, but they're steady. And steady requires commitment. Here's another metaphor that hit me, right? Thought about this. Starting new ideas feels like opening new tabs on the browser. Remember the 47 tabs we have in our brains that they're all still loading. That's the metaphor that hit me the most. New ideas feel like opening a new tab on a browser. And to get deeper into it, a new browser, new tab, new possibilities. You can start over. You can do anything, research whatever, start whatever, watch whatever, complete whatever. That's energy. And there's energy in it, there's possibility in it. But returning to something that you've already built, it's like reopening a document you've been avoiding. You see the unfinished sentences, the half formed thoughts, the expectations you set for yourself, and it asks something of you, right? And sometimes the thing that asks the most of us are the things we hesitate the most of. Because choosing them means we can't hide behind potential anymore. We know the potential we have. In my case, I like to consider myself full of potential to do anything, to accomplish anything. But potential is a fog. Think about that for a second. Potential is a fog. Proved it to myself. I get so caught up in starting new ideas, starting new researches, starting new everything. And it's exciting at first, but then there's a fog because I can't see past what's already in front of me. Can't see beyond the starting point. And think about it. If potential is a fog, you can stand in a fog and look impressive, right? It's mysterious, it's undefined. But once the fog clears, now there's visibility, now there's accountability. And I think I've been living in a fog lately. And I believe in my mind, and I just wrote this down. I've been calling it strategy. I've been calling it timing. But really, it was just hesitation. Reading my notes here, I have 5 new ideas that I started working on just 2 weeks ago. I've avoided this. I've been hesitant to come back because I feel like I'm going to miss something out on the other ideas that I haven't even brought to fruition yet. But because I fully choose this and I fully show up here, then I can't blame distraction anymore. Can't say those other 5 ideas going to make me put 21 grams aside. Can't say that anymore. So what do I have to do? Keep building. And building is exposure. It's putting your fingerprints on something and letting people see it. It's easier to be the guy with 10 ideas. It's harder to be the guy who commits to one. And I learned that the hard way. I have to commit to this one. And sometimes the things that we care about the most are the things we delay the most. But not because we don't believe in them, but because we do. And belief carries weight. And that weight, it requires strength. And strength requires showing up consistently, even when the excitement fades. So, I haven't been overwhelmed. I've been circling the runway, burning fuel, my engine's loud, looking impressive from the outside, but never actually taking off. And that right there, that's on me. Let's think about it. Potential is comfortable. But let's stop being polite for a second. Potential, it feels powerful. It does. There's something intoxicated about saying, I could start that, I could build that, I could be great at that. As long as something is an idea, it can't fail. As long as it's something I might do, it can't disappoint you, it can't expose you, it can't humble you. And some of us have built entire identities around I could, not I did, or I built, or I finished, but simply I could. I could do this, I could do that, I could be the best at this. And lately I've been living there. What does that look like? From my case, I've been researching cars I'm not buying, watching breakdowns of companies I'm not even building, starting books like I'm trying on different versions of myself in a dressing room. It feels productive. It feels like I'm doing something, but it's not direction. I like to call that mental cosplay. It's rehearsing a life instead of living it. Ooh, look at me for a second. Standing in a room with 10 open doors isn't a strategy. It's fear if you think about it. Each door leads somewhere good. So picture yourself in a room and there's 5 doors, and each door leads somewhere good. One door's for money, one door's for impact, one door is for growth, the other one is for creativity. But instead of choosing, you just stand in the middle and you're turning in circles. You're pointing at the doors, you're talking about the doors, imagining what's behind them. Calling that movement, that's not movement, that's safety because you're not picking one, you're staying in the middle. Because once you walk through the door, you close the others. Once you pick one project, one idea, one avenue to go, the other ones close. Why? Because you're choosing. You're focusing and you're giving it your energy. I'm going to do this and I'm going to commit to it and the other doors, they're going to close. But if you're like me, sometimes closing doors feels like a loss. But standing in the middle, that feels like control because you can pick which way to go at any given moment. You can feel which decision to take, which decision to delay, which one to put on the back burner, which one to take right now. Standing in the middle feels like control, but it's not control, it's simply delay. And some of you listening right now, you don't lack talent, you don't lack ideas, you don't lack ambition. What we lack is decision. And we're exhausted because life is heavy, right? But because, well, I'm sorry, you're exhausted not because life is heavy, but because your mind is carrying 10 futures at once. You're having board meetings in your head for businesses that don't even exist. You're planning success speeches for rooms you haven't even entered yet. It feels like you're worrying about burnout from work you haven't even started. And that's not vision. That is not vision at all. That's self inflicted pressure. Then we wonder why we feel slow. No wonder why we feel stuck. You're trying to sprint in 5 different directions. It's like potential is like sitting in a parked car revving the engine. The sound is loud, it feels powerful, it feels like something is happening, but the car's not moving. Fuel is burning, noise is being made, but you're still in the driveway. And at some point, you have to put it in drive. That requires choosing a direction. And choosing a direction means you might hit traffic, you might take a wrong turn, you might stall, but at least you're moving. Right now, a lot of us are just making noise, and we're calling it quote unquote preparation. And if that stings a little, good. It's meant to, because it stung me too. I've been tired from imaginary pressure, exhausted from futures I haven't even earned yet, carrying the weight that doesn't even belong to today. And I'm calling that ambition. But no, that's fear wearing ambition's clothes. And the moment you realize that, that's when things start shifting, right? Here's the part I didn't want to admit at first. I haven't just been distracted, I've been divided. I've been trying too many versions of myself at the same time. What versions, right? The podcaster, the entrepreneur, the reviewer, the reader, the gamer, the car enthusiast, the guy who helps people, the guy who might or should talk to a therapist, the guy who has it all figured out, all at once. And when you list it like that, it sounds ambitious. Sounds like wow, so much going on. But when you live it, It feels fragmented. Feels like waking up every day and trying to wear 10 different jackets at the same time. Each one fits, each one looks good, each one represents a part of you, but stacked together, can't even move. You're overheated. You get tired faster than you should. And then you wonder why you feel heavy, right? You're wearing 10 different things, trying to do 10 different things at the same time. And it's not because you lack identity, it's because you refuse to let one breathe. Here's something I had to realize: being multi passionate is a gift. I'm going to say that again. Being multi passionate is a gift. But without discipline, it becomes self sabotage. Because if I try to give 20% of myself to five different versions, none of them get enough oxygen to grow. None of them get the full me. They just exist halfway, quarter of the way, 20% of the way. Half built, half expressed, half realized. And half built dreams, they're dangerous. They whisper. They sit in the background of your mind saying, you could have, you almost, you should have. And over time, those whispers start to sound like regret. Few episodes back, we talked about being on autopilot and how the brain understands repetitions. If you haven't heard that episode, listen to it. We do these things over and over. We start new ideas. We open up all these 47 tabs, and the brain works on autopilot at that point. It's the repetition is just that. You start these things and you don't finish them. You gain some momentum, but you let it go. But it's not because you didn't have the talent, but because you refuse to focus. And focus, I'll agree with this part, and maybe you will too. Focus feels scary because focus means temporarily saying no to other parts of yourself. And sometimes that feels like betrayal, but it's not betrayal, it's a season. There are seasons where you build, where you explore, where you rest, where you heal, where you reset. But trying to live every season at the same time, that's chaos. Think about shuffle mode ambition doesn't build legacy because you're shuffling too much. All it does is build stimulation. It keeps you entertained by your own potential. But entertained is not fulfilled. Let me ask you something. What are you trying to be right now? Not in 5 years, not when everything aligns, but right now. Because amongst everything that I realized in these past few weeks, I realized something uncomfortable. I've been more committed to the idea of being impressive than the discipline of being consistent. And that stung. I've been more committed to the idea of being impressive than the discipline of being consistent. And that stung. It really did. And maybe it stung because it's true. It's easier to say I'm building multiple things than to say I'm focused on one thing right now. Focus feels small at first, right? But small and consistent becomes undeniable. And I had to understand that. Small and consistent becomes undeniable. Trying to be everything at once is just another way of not fully becoming anything. And that's the part that made me sit still. I don't need to be every version of myself today. I just need to choose who gets my energy or what gets my energy in this season and trust that the rest will still be there because they will. They're mine. Your interest doesn't disappear when you focus, they mature. But they can't mature if you keep uprooting them. And maybe, just maybe, you're not confused. You're just trying to carry too many identities at once. And that's exhausting. But there's always a turning point. And here's what finally clicked. And it didn't click during some deep meditation or self reflection or anything like that. It clicked last week, Saturday morning. I woke up early, the house was quiet, my wife was making coffee, phone still face down, and for a second there was peace. You know, the kind of morning where you feel like you could reset your whole life before noon. Sat at the table with a notebook, and I wrote on top of that page, and I'm looking at it right now. What are we actually doing? What am I actually doing? And I started listing everything: podcast, business ideas, books, cars, side research, new concepts, helping people, therapy, future planning. The page filled up fast. And then I just stared at it and it hit me. I'm not lost. I'm simply overloaded with potential. And that's different because lost feels empty, overloaded feels crowded. Lost feels like you don't know where to go. And then overload feels like you see too many roads at once. But I learned that I can't chase five futures and expect to move forward in the present. That's like trying to plant five trees with one shovel and digging half a hole for each one. That concept, you don't grow a forest, you make a mess of dirt. And I realized something else. At some point, you have to choose a season, not forever, just for now. You don't build a house by working on every room at once. You don't build a case by working it from A to Z all at once. You lay a foundation. I call that building blocks. You frame, you wire, you finish in order. Build a foundation first, your ideas, your legacy, your business, your work potential. Anything you do starts with your foundation. The stronger the foundation, the stronger everything else goes. But I've been trying to decorate rooms and complete ideas that are just not there yet. And no wonder I was feeling tired and I was feeling behind. I've been trying to harvest fruit from trees I haven't even planted yet. And here's the uncomfortable truth: I've been avoiding choosing because choosing makes it real. Choosing means that if it doesn't work, there's nowhere else to point. Choosing means accountability. It means showing up when the excitement fades and when the work gets repetitive. And that's how I feel about this podcast. I would log in every Monday night, fresh idea in mind, quiet, set the tone, and start recording. It felt like a job. It felt like this is just too repetitive at this point. And I think that's why I slowed down. Not because I didn't care, but because I cared too much. When something matters deeply, it feels heavier to carry. It's like holding a glass filled to the top, and you move slower at that point, right? You're not gonna run with a glass full. And it's not because you're weak, but because you don't want to spill it, right? You don't want to mess it up. 21 grams to me isn't just another project. It's something that I said before, I've built this from instinct. And when something is yours like that, you don't want to mishandle it. So instead of walking carefully, I stopped walking altogether. It's like 21 grams is my cup and it was full to the top. Instead of walking carefully with it so I wouldn't mess it up or spill it or drop it, I just stopped walking completely. And that's what Saturday morning showed me. I wasn't confused and I wasn't broken. I was afraid to commit to the thing that actually matters. And the moment I wrote it down, I wrote down choose a season. Something settled because clarity doesn't require knowing everything. It just requires knowing what gets your energy right now. And that realization, that's when the fog started lifting. So let me say this clearly: 21 grams is the priority for this season. Not another idea, not another project, not another experiment. Simply this: because clarity doesn't come from more ideas, it comes from commitment. And maybe you don't need a new idea either. Maybe you need to recommit to the one that's already been sitting in front of you. Slow isn't lazy. Sometimes slow is the moment before alignment. And I think that's where I've been. Not lazy or broken, just standing in a room full of doors, finally choosing one. Finally choosing the one that says 21 grams. So here's where I land tonight. I'm not lost. I'm not lazy. I'm not behind. I've just been standing in the middle of too many doors and I finally realized something. You don't fix overload by adding more clarity. You fix overload by choosing. And I'm choosing. Not perfectly, not with fireworks, but intentionally. 21 grams is the priority for this season, not because the other ideas aren't good, but because this one is mine. And sometimes growth doesn't look like acceleration. Sometimes growth looks like narrowing. Like taking all the scattered energy and pointing it in just one direction. That's what it is. And that's what this is, a narrowing. And if you're listening to this and if you felt slow lately, if you felt scattered, mentally loud, but physically still, you're not broken. You might just be overloaded. And the idea isn't, or maybe the answer isn't another idea, simply a decision. But here's the part that we can't ignore. Choosing something meaningful means you have to confront what's been pulling you away from it. And that's what we're talking about next week. Because let's be honest, the scrolling isn't random, the binge watching isn't harmless. The consistent or the constant stimulation, the just one more episode, the short videos, the background noise, the dopamine hits that feel small but add up. That's not entertainment, that's escape. And I don't think that we're lazy. I think we're overstimulated. I think we've been sedating ambition with convenience. And if we're going to build something that matters, we have to understand what we've been feeding our minds instead, right? Next week, we're talking about dopamine debt. What is it? How it's quietly dulling our edge, and why comfort is costing more than we think. Because if this episode was about choosing a door, the next one is about keeping us, how would I say it? The next one is about what's keeping us sitting on a couch. Well, wine's finished, clarity's back, and I feel like myself. Thank you for spending time with me. This is 21 grams, and like always, I'll be right here for the next conversation.